Hi, y'all. Welcome to the Attention Management Program, or AMP. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Joel.
And we're both psychologists here at CAPS, and we're really excited. No, we're amped that you're here.
AMP is a program that we developed to help people train their brains and organize their lives, to develop tools that might promote more attention capacity and success in school and life in general. This workshop works well for people who've been diagnosed with ADHD. That is true, but it also can be useful. We might be biased, but it could be useful for anybody who might want to improve their ability to pay attention to things in school, life, what have you.
Yeah, and so in order to help folks with ADHD and folks who just generally struggle with attention management regardless of diagnosis, Joel and I developed this workshop together into a format that includes 4 sessions total. So in the past, we delivered them a number of times to in-person groups before the coronavirus pandemic. But given that our community now needs to become more remote in order to all keep each other healthy, we've decided to put these video sessions and exercises online for you to use at your physically distanced convenience.
Yeah, so what is AMP? AMP is the workshop, a 4-session workshop, and it's broken up into 2 primary components. So you'll see by looking at the main menu, each week of AMP is broken up into 2 parts, each corresponding to 2 theories, one being cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and the other being mindfulness. You may have heard of one or both of those. Right now, I'm going to start here by saying a little bit about mindfulness, a word that many of you, again, have probably heard because it's rightfully been buzzed about in the last decade or two, for all the wonderful things that can come along with more mindful awareness. Sometimes with all that buzz, though, I will caution you, the word mindfulness gets misused or misunderstood. So here at the beginning, I think it's important to get on the same page about what we're talking about when we say the word mindfulness. Mindfulness basically is an awareness of your experience in the present moment without judgment. There are some really easy ways to get into touch with what this means experientially. Let's start right now. I'm going to ask you or invite you to become mindfully aware of your breath. I'm going to ask you to take 2 to 3 breaths in a second. As we do that, and I'm going to do it with you, I ask that you just try to attend as much as possible to the experience of breathing. What is it like to breathe? Feeling the air go through your nostrils and filling up your lungs, feeling the pause at the top of the breath before the air gets exhaled all the way out. And you might think this is weird right now, even as I'm explaining it, or as you're doing it or practicing it, and that's okay. I just ask that you see if you could just call your awareness to what it's like to breathe for the next 2 to 3 breaths. Let's do it. All right. If you're able to just feel that experience for even a moment, you were practicing mindfulness. Good job. Now, we could try it another way. If you're sitting down, your feet are on the floor, just bring your awareness to your feet. What it's like for your feet to be sitting there on the floor. Feel the pressure points and the place where the floor meets the feet, how the floor supports your feet. If you're wearing shoes, maybe you notice something about the shoe around your foot or your socks around your feet. Temperature, discomfort, anything at all, whatever you notice, just for a few moments here. All right. I know I don't really pause that much during my day to pay attention to my feet. If you were able to do that, just to notice the experience of your feet right now, again, congratulations, you were practicing mindfulness. So these are kind of simple examples, and intentionally so, because I think it's important to note that we are all capable of being mindful. And when we are mindful, we're switching into a particular mode of our brain. You're using specific pathways there. Now, our brains are capable of being very mindful and not very mindful at all. In fact, I think of it as some kind of continuum that we're operating on at all times. That ranges from mindlessness to mindfulness. Okay, so being mindless isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it can be a very good thing. An example of this that I often think of is driving to work every day or driving to school every day, which I don't do anymore. I ride my bike, but I have in the past driven a car to places on the daily, and sometimes I'd get to that parking spot, I'd turn off my car, and I would think, I don't remember that entire drive to work. How did I get here and not crash? How am I still alive? It doesn't make sense. What happened to the last 15 minutes of my life? Now, I imagine some of you have had that experience or experiences like it when you're doing really familiar things. Now, obviously, somehow I made it to work every day, and I've been in one or two car crashes in my life, but generally speaking, I made it safely every day. And that's many, many trips in the car without crashing. So again, I'm not advocating distracted driving. I'm a cyclist. Drive safe, pay attention to when you're driving on the road. But we are capable of being safe while kind of thinking about other things or not being fully aware of what we're doing in the present moment. We can operate on autopilot. Now, while I was driving to work, while you're driving to work or school or whatever it might be, we might be thinking about this upcoming exam or something that happened at that party last weekend or something that's bothering us or something that we're excited about. All these things we can kind of fit into our awareness while we're driving a car or something like that. That's pretty cool. That's like multitasking. So obviously that can be a good thing. Now, however, some of us can really benefit from being more mindful more of the time. And those of us with attention difficulties are definitely among those folks. You might, switch the example from driving to work to reading a chapter. Obviously, in reading a chapter, I want to retain everything. So I'm not remembering that car ride. So that's not a good mode of awareness if I want to retain information. That's a mindless kind of multitasking type of awareness compared to a more mindful one where I'd be more fully absorbed in the presentness of whatever I'm doing. So I think, and those of us with attention difficulties can get kind of pulled around maybe more so than those who don't have attention difficulties. So when we're mindful, we're in charge of where our attention goes. That's because we can become more conscious of where our awareness is and have some degree of choice of where we put it. It's fair to say that if we're in charge of our awareness, we'll be more successful at sustaining it or returning it to the things upon which we intend to attend. That's hard to say. On the other hand, if we're on autopilot and we've been diagnosed with ADHD or we have some difficulty paying attention and we get a distracting thought, we're going to just go with that thought because we're not really in control. We're going with the flow of the wind, and we'll go with whatever kind of distraction comes into our awareness. So if we're trying to read a chapter and that thing comes into our mind, we'll just go with it. And then, we might go with another thing after that, and then another thing. And then we'll be so far down the road, we won't remember anything about what we've read. We might not make it a sentence or two without that happening. So obviously that's a problem, and it can be really frustrating. I know. But imagine what it would be to be more mindful in those areas, in those experiences. If we're more mindful when those distractions come into our awareness, and it's important to note that being mindful doesn't mean that we won't have distractions or we won't experience distracting thoughts. We will. The thoughts will come into our mind, but we will be more aware of where we place our awareness. So distracting thought, well, I'd rather, bring my awareness to this thing I intend to pay attention to, the reading. So we become simply better at noticing the distractions and choosing whether we want to go with them or not. And we're not as defined by the distractions themselves. So Sarah and I know in our experience, particularly our experiences working with folks in AMP, that a lot of people diagnosed with ADHD have given up to an extent. They've kind of surrendered to the fact that they're going to have difficulties for the rest of their life and nothing works and they'll never be better. And it's really discouraging. And we feel for this, and we get it. It is difficult. Not trying to minimize that. But we will also want to suggest that everybody, ADHD or not, can exercise parts of their brain in ways that make those parts more efficient and more readily available. Some people are more distractible than others, granted, but people can develop these abilities whether they're diagnosed with ADHD or not. What it takes, and maybe it's more difficult for some than others, what it takes is a certain degree of commitment to practice. So we're going to ask you to get into that, to get into some method of practice. And that practice can look kind of informal or formal, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So every time we bring our awareness to the present moment in a mindful way, we're exercising anterior cingulate cortex, or insula. These are areas up here correspond with mindfulness and paying attention. It's like doing a rep at the gym. And those areas get stronger. Our brains throughout our lives change. And this is a concept we call brain plasticity. And it has everything to do with what parts of our brain we're using. So it's fair to say if we're more mindful more of the time, those parts of the brain are gonna be more fit, or stronger, more efficient. The saying in neuropsychology goes, when neurons fire, they rewire. So if you're being more mindful more of the time, those neurons are firing and they're getting rewired. That means they're myelinating, they're making pathways, they're developing into superhighways of neural input. And you become better at being mindful, which again equates to having more attention capacity. What does it mean to practice? So earlier we were tending to our breath and our feet. That was practicing mindfulness. That was a more informal practice. Something that I try to do like every day is in the shower, just pay attention to what it's like for the water to be dripping off on my body. It's hot, there's steam, it's really like salient. It's easy to get here and now with that experience for me. One of my favorite ways to be mindful is mindfully eating. Something delicious. You want to really experience what it's like to eat this delicious thing. So you notice the experiences in your mouth, in your body, in your nose, all of these things, what it's like to be eating. That's kind of a fun way to get here and now, because if you like eating it, it can be a nice thing to pay attention to. So you might be walking to class or walking around and noticing, the ground beneath your feet, the wind, the trees, the sounds, the feelings, whatever's going on in that moment, to just bring your awareness to those things. That's practicing mindfulness. Now, those more informal ways of practicing might be akin to taking the stairs instead of the elevator if you're trying to get in shape. But there are other more formal ways of practicing that might be more akin to, say, going to the gym, where you're carving out time to actually develop in this area. To do this, you can do like more formal meditations, and we're going to be providing some formal guided meditations, which you'll find on the main menu for your practice. So I briefly just introduced you to the concept of mindfulness and how practice of mindfulness can possibly help you to develop your attention capacity and actually change your brain. To me, though, the best teacher here is experience. So we want you to right now or today get into the practice of mindfulness. Sarah's going to address this further as she presents in a minute. But spoiler, we're going to ask you to practice daily mindfulness for about 15 minutes. Now, the guided meditations we're going to offer you they're going to be a few of them. One of them, called the body scan, is one that we would like you to start with. and maybe continue throughout the course of the workshop. A body scan simply is scanning your body in a mindful way, and in the meditation I'll guide you through that. So we know that with about 15 or 20 minutes of mindful practice, and there's research behind this, that's when the brain changes actually start. So we feel pretty good if you put it in and you're doing 15 minutes of mindfulness, whether it's body scan or some other type of mindfulness practice, you're going to start to notice your ability to pay attention to things develop. At least we feel confident that that could happen. So you're going to get out of this what you put into it. And we know that this is challenging. It's a challenging thing to start meditating in particular. Once you get into it, it kind of, you get into a rhythm, and it can be easier to do that. But I'd just like to encourage you to get motivated, to really see, just sink into it. You're here right now, and really see if this is something that might be able to help you, because research has shown that it can help a lot of people. So the body scan is one that we'd like to make a staple, or we'd recommend as a staple for your daily routine. So yeah, again, just if that doesn't work for you, then finding another type of meditation on apps like Headspace, Stop, Breathe, and Think, Calm, or the Tao app on the CAPS website. If you have any questions about that, please do call into CAPS. I'm going to stop babbling for now and turn it over to Sarah. Again, really sink into it and see if this can be a tool that can help you, because I think it can.
Awesome. Thanks, Joel. So now that you understand the basis of how the mindfulness theory forms part of the foundation for the skills you'll learn through AMP, I'm going to explain a little bit about the other theory that makes up this workshop, and that's called Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, or CBT. CBT is a brief, skills-based treatment approach. It was originally created to treat mood disorders like depression, but over the years it's been really well researched and adapted to help people address a lot of concerns that bring folks into therapy, including attention difficulties. And so a lot like mindfulness, CBT is focused on the here and now. It's most interested in what problems or difficulties you're having today and offering strategies to help you remedy them. So CBT-based strategies, the ones that we'll cover in this workshop, fall into two main categories. There's cognitive strategies, which means working with how you think about a problem in order to help you solve it. And then there's behavioral strategies, meaning specific techniques, things you can do differently in order to help you solve problems. CBT for adult ADHD, or better put, for attention management, focuses pretty heavily on the behavioral strategies. And that's where we'll start in the first couple of CBT videos that you'll see in weeks 1 and 2 of the AMP workshop curriculum on the main menu. I'll explain more about cognitive strategies and what exactly the cognitive theory is in the recordings where I talk about implementing those kind of techniques. So just like the mindfulness theory strategies that you'll learn from Joel's videos, CBT has been well researched, and it's been shown in the research literature and also in our experience working with folks who've completed AMP already to be really helpful in helping people just like you manage some of these difficulties. But it does require practice. So after watching the videos where I'll provide instructions on the CBT technique, you'll have to give them a try on your own. And that's where most of the learning really happens. So that leads me to the next important point, which is how to get the most out of this video series that we've put together. So based on the feedback from students who've already completed AMP and our own experiences running workshops, including this one, we've learned, just like Joel said, you will get out of AMP what you put in. The more time you spend practicing and working with each technique that we introduce, the easier they'll become and the better you'll get at doing them. It'll kind of become like retraining your brain, literally and figuratively, to do things in a way that works better for you. So one thing you'll notice on the main menu is that these videos are organized into 4 weeks. And that's because they were designed for Joel and I to present at an in-person workshop once a week, and then for all of the workshop participants to practice on their own for the following 7 days, and then come back the next week to learn another skill. So we really encourage you to use them just like that from home. It's kind of like watering plants. If you give your plants a cup of water every hour, you're going to drown them. So you probably could, power through all of these videos, but just like watering the plants once every 15 minutes, they can't take it. They need some time to absorb the first splash of water before you add another one. So like I just said, you probably could get through all these videos in one day, but you'll miss out on the real learning, the absorbing, and the sinking in that comes from trying these strategies and skills on your own, working with them to really make them fit your own unique life circumstance. So to help you practice, we've designed specific homework assignments each week. And indeed, spoiler alert, we will start by asking you to find a way to incorporate 15 minutes of daily mindfulness practice into your routine. Joel has a lot of fabulous recordings in the main menu that you can use, and there's also a lot of stuff out there online. So whatever you decide to practice with that, the important point is the daily component. As you practice these things daily, you'll almost definitely find that some strategies work better for you than others. But we really encourage you to give everyone a sincere try. If you're splitting it up over the 4 weeks like we recommend, try each one for a week. And that way, you'll really get a clear sense of what works for you and why. Also, the skills, especially the CBT skills, really build on each other. So you'll probably get more out of the skills in week 3 if you've already practiced the week 1 skills. The one piece that is sadly missing from these AMP videos online is the energy and, frankly, the accountability that comes from doing this workshop together with a group. So if you can, we strongly encourage you to consider buddying up with someone. Maybe go through the videos together, or find an accountability partner, somebody who you can update every week about whether you did the videos, or even better yet, once you've practiced a skill yourself, see if you can teach it to somebody else. That way you can get their feedback and also kind of master the skill yourself. Now, if at any point while you're working through these AMP workshop videos, you find yourself feeling really stuck or frustrated or lost doing this on your own, and especially if any of the content of the videos brings up other concerns that you need to talk through, please reach out to us here at CAPS. Joel and I are only 2 of a whole team of CAPS therapists and psychiatry providers who are here in business with our Zoom sessions rolling, ready to help you. So if you'd like some support related to the AMP videos or any other kinds of concerns, you can get started with a counselor here at CAPS by completing a remote triage visit. And the way to do that is by calling us at 520-621-3334, or if you navigate to the Getting Started page on our website, you can find a link to join Zoom, a Zoom meeting for triage during our hours, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., Monday through Friday. And last but not least, if you experience a crisis of any kind, like if you have thoughts about harming yourself or someone else, or if you feel so overwhelmed by emotions that you're just not sure how to see yourself through, reach out to us. CAPS has 24/7 crisis support available by phone. You can speak with a licensed counselor any time of the day. So now that you know how to get in touch with us in case you need support of any kind, and now that we've explained to you the theory behind AMP and these videos, you know how to get the most out of them. Without any further ado, let's get started.
One more thing. You made it to the end of this video, you deserve some credit. You're taking a step to addressing an area of your life that you want to address. And we hope we can help you with that. It's going to take work on your part, but you started that journey. And just by taking that step, that's pretty awesome and not lost on us. So give yourself a pat on the back. We wish we were here with you in person, but we're glad to join you virtually on video. Good luck, and let us know if we can help you in any way.
Bye.
Bye.